Okay, I'm hoping that you can hear me. Air conditioners are on today. It's very, very warm. This is in the Urantia book again. This is paper 132, The Sojourn at Rome. The last video I did, I gave a little bit of an indication that Jesus, while in Rome, had some time to himself and had dedicated a good part of his time to teaching the religious leaders who were already in Rome of these different religious orders. This is a bit of a breakdown here. Here's what it says. Whether or not it was apparent to Jesus that the Jews were going to reject his mission, he most certainly foresaw that his messengers were presently coming to Rome to proclaim the kingdom of heaven, and he therefore set about in the most amazing manner to prepare the way for the better and more certain reception of their message. He selected 5 of the leading Stoics, so these are the different religious orders, Stoic, 11 of the Cynics, and 16 of the mystery cult leaders, and spent much of his spare time for almost 6 months in intimate association with these religious leaders, and this was his method of instruction. Never once did he attack their errors. He really focused on the truth in their understanding and their orders. He focused on the truth of what they were proclaiming, and through doing that, the non-truth or untruth melted away. So it has been impressed upon me to focus more on the truth in the teachings, or what the true teaching or true message of that teaching is, rather than to say where the error is. Because I have been known to say there's an error here, something isn't right here, and it was impressed upon me through this reading that I need to focus on what the truth is, and how that message can be used to the benefit of humanity. Even if it was misguided or erroneous in some way. So further on, it talks about him teaching 1 or 2 at a time, sometimes just individuals, but that this was over a 6-month period, and he was meeting with, different ones. Now there they only gave us, it had said 32. I didn't do the count to see. Let me pause here for just a minute. Okay, yeah, just did the numbers quick. It does add up to 32, so we're good. Because it says that 30 out of the 32 became influential in establishing the Christian faith or the Christian teachings in that area. Okay, so this section on true values, it's subsection 1, and I'm going to go down to that because it's important. Some of this is going to be difficult. I'm going to have to actually listen to my own videos just to truly understand this and probably take it into contemplation. True values. It was with Agamemnon, the leader of the Stoics, that Jesus had an all-night talk early during his sojourn in Rome. The man subsequently became a great friend of Paul and proved to be one of the strong supporters of the Christian church at Rome in substance, and restated in modern phraseology. Jesus taught Agamemnon the following: the standard of true values must be looked for in the spiritual world and on divine levels of eternal reality. To an ascending mortal, all lower and material standards must be recognized as transient, partial, and inferior. The scientist, as such, is limited to the discovery of the relatedness of material facts. Technically, he has no right to assert that he is either material or idealist, for in so doing he has assumed to forsake the attitude of a true scientist, since any and all such assertions of attitude are the very essence of philosophy. Unless the moral insight and the spiritual attainment of mankind are proportionately augmented, The unlimited advancement of a purely materialistic culture may eventually become a menace to civilization. A purely materialistic science harbors within itself the potential seed of the destruction of all scientific striving, for this very attitude presages the ultimate collapse of a civilization which has abandoned its sense of moral values and has repudiated its spiritual goal of attainment. The materialistic scientist and the extreme idealist are destined always to be at loggerheads. This is not true of those scientists and idealists who are in possession of a common standard of high moral values and spiritual test levels. In every age, scientists and religionists must recognize that they are on trial before the bar of human need. They must eschew all warfare between themselves while they strive valiantly to justify their continued survival by enhanced devotion to the service of human progress. If the so-called science or religion of any age is false, then must it either purify its activities or pass away before the emergence of a material science or spiritual religion of a truer and more worthy order. I'm going to do subsection 2, good and evil. Martus was the acknowledged leader of the Cynics of Rome, and he became a great friend of the scribe of Damascus, which is another title that Jesus held, or another way he was referred to. Day after day he conversed with Jesus, and night upon night he listened to his supernal teaching. Among the more important discussions with Martus was the one designed to answer this sincere cynic's question about good and evil. In substance and in 20th century phraseology, Jesus said, "My brother, good and evil are merely words symbolizing relative levels of human comprehension of the observable universe. If you are ethically lazy and socially indifferent, you can take as your standard of good the current social usages. If you are spiritually indolent and morally unprogressive, you may take as your standards of good the religious practices and traditions of your contemporaries. But the soul that survives time and emerges into eternity must make a living and personal choice between good and evil, as they are determined by the true values of the spiritual standards established by the divine Spirit, which the Father in heaven has sent to dwell within the heart of man. This indwelling spirit is the standard of personality survival." I'm going to pause for a second. Okay. Goodness, like truth, is always relative and unfailingly evil contrasted. It is the perception of these qualities of goodness and truth that enables the evolving souls of men to make those personal decisions of choice which are essential to eternal survival. The spiritually blind individual who logically follows scientific dictation, social usage, and religious dogma stands in grave danger of sacrificing his moral freedom and losing his spiritual liberty. Such a soul is designed to become an intellectual parrot, a social automaton, and a slave to religious authority. I'm going to move you guys over a little bit. Goodness is always growing toward new levels of the increasing liberty of moral self-realization and spiritual personality attainment. The discovery of the identification with the indwelling adjuster. An experience is good when it heightens the appreciation of beauty, augments the moral will, enhances the discernment of truth, enlarges the capacity to love and serve one's fellows, exalts the spiritual ideals, and unifies the supreme human motives of time with the eternal plans of the indwelling adjuster, all of which leads directly to an increased desire to do the Father's will, thereby fostering the divine passion to find God and to be more like Him. As you ascend the universe scale of creature development, you will find increasing goodness and diminishing evil in perfect accordance with your capacity for goodness, experience, and truth, discernment. The ability to entertain errors or experience evil will not be fully lost until the ascending human soul achieves final spirit levels. Goodness is living, relative. Goodness is living, relative, always progressing, invariably a personal experience and everlastingly correlated with the discernment of truth and beauty. I'm going to read that again. Goodness is living, relative, always progressing, invariably a personal experience, and everlastingly correlated with the discernment of truth and beauty. Goodness is found in the recognition of the positive truth values of the spiritual level, which must, in human experience, be contrasted with the negative counterpart, the shadows of potential evil. Until you attain paradise levels, goodness will always be more of a quest than a possession, more of a goal than an experience of attainment. But even as you hunger and thirst for righteousness, you experience increasing satisfaction in the partial attainment of goodness. The presence of goodness and evil in the world is in itself positive proof of the existence and reality of man's moral will. The personality, which thus identifies these values and is also able to choose between them. By the time of the attainment of paradise, the ascending mortal's capacity for identifying the self with true spirit values has become so enlarged as to result in the attainment of the perfection of the possession of light of life. Such a perfected spirit personality becomes so wholly, divinely, and spiritually unified with the positive and supreme qualities of goodness, beauty, and truth, that there remains no possibility that such a righteous spirit could cast any negative shadow of potential evil when exposed to the searching luminosity of the divine light of the infinite rulers of paradise. In all such spirit personalities, goodness is no longer partial, contrastive, and comparative. It has become divinely complete and spiritually replete. It approaches the purity and perfection of the Supreme. The possibility of error is necessary to moral choosing, but not the actuality thereof. A shadow is only relatively real. Actual evil is not necessary as a personal experience. Potential evil acts equally well as a decision stimulus in the realms of moral progress on the lower levels of spiritual development. Evil becomes a reality of personal experience only when a moral mind makes evil its choice. I'm going to pause here and read over everything and listen to it again and sit with it in contemplation, and perhaps I'll come back and do a discussion on it. These are the words of Christ, and so we'll see if there's anything more that Love would like to add to this today, because all texts come through filters, and I have discussed that before. We have visited that concept before. So I will sit with it and see if love has anything more to impart with this, or any clarifications that it feels necessary. And if that is the case, I will come back and address these things. And I'll probably just clip them all together in one video, so as unskillfully as I can, as I do. But if I don't come back to this, and peace and love, may you be blessed. Okay, back to the good and evil section 2. This would be the discussion portion. There isn't a lot that I feel that needs to happen here. There was one thing in this. My brother, good and evil are merely words, symbolizing relative levels of human comprehension of the observable universe. And I did discuss this actually in the video, one of the videos that I made last night, about why we have choice, what free will is. And the way Jesus said it here is very much in alignment with what was discussed in that other video. So good and evil are just labels. I use the word labels, and he says symbols of relative levels of human comprehension. And again, that points to when we come into mortal form, our understanding, comprehension, he says, is limited. We don't comprehend everything in totality. And so where these blocks or these limitations of understanding occur, it creates the inevitable potentiality for error, which can be translated into evil or sin. And good, of course, is the opposite of that. We live in a dualistic world because we have choice to align with love or not. And so that's just what's being reiterated here. What I really liked about this was something I touched on in the video last night, which was about how our personality, the more we align with love, the more often we align with love, the more regularly, naturally we align with love, we become fused with this thought adjuster. I'm going to pause real quick to go to the portion where it says about that so I can look into it. Before I even move on to that, I want to address this. So he says here, if you are spiritually indolent and morally unprogressive, you may take as your standard of good the religious practices and traditions of your contemporaries. But the soul that survives time and emerges into eternity must make a living and personal choice between good and evil, as they are determined by the true values of the spiritual standards established by the divine spirit, which the Father in heaven has sent to dwell within the heart of man. This indwelt spirit is the standard of personality survival. And so what he's saying is, you know, if you're not really progressing spiritually, if you're not really setting out to have a true relationship with God, as you understand it, what does that mean? It means you have a relationship with God, whether you understand that you do or not. But if you are consciously seeking the development of that relationship, oneness with God, oneness with the love, then you will be looking further and beyond the standards that have been established by the religious orders. Okay. So this is talking, I would use the word doctrines now, okay? It isn't enough to read the words on the page. It isn't enough to listen to the interpretations of someone else. It may be easier, but it isn't enough. Those of us who teach these messages do so as a reminder to awaken within anyone who hears the message who they truly are in God, who they truly are as the light of Christ, as that. That's what we're looking to do. Those of us who teach this message with good and with true intent, I would say, it is because we know that by reminding everyone else, we are reinstilling it. We are reinforcing it within ourselves, but we are also helping ourselves by helping everyone else. So, but the spirit that dwells within each and every one of us is not going to be satisfied with the status quo if the status quo is not deepening your connection with God or with love. Goodness, like truth, is always relative and unfailingly evil contrasted. Okay, so now the word truth is used here. Goodness is relative. Truth is relative when it's not absolute, when it's not love, when it's not the truth that is God. Okay, so then it's relative, but when it's an absolute, it is not. It is the perception of these qualities of goodness and truth that enables the evolving souls of men to make those personal decisions of choice which are essential to eternal survival. In order to progress to the level of infusion, to immortality of the personality self, in this context, we must repeatedly make the choice of love, to bring those pieces with us, to fuse them with the divine aspect of God that we always were and always are. So these other little pieces that we've picked up on the way, if, in order to fuse with the divine love that we are, we have to continuously integrate them through that practice of love and a loving expression through thoughts, words, deeds, all of that. Because those that don't, they will fall away. This part is beautiful. Okay, wait, I'm sorry, I have to touch on this. Sorry about that. This spiritually blind individual who logically follows scientific dictation, social usage, and religious dogma stands in grave danger of sacrificing his moral freedom and losing his spiritual liberty. Such a soul is destined to become an intellectual parrot, a social automaton, and a slave to religious authority. That is so valuable today that I'm reading it one more time. The spiritually blind individual who logically follows scientific dictation, social usage, and religious dogma stands in grave danger of sacrificing his moral freedom and losing his spiritual liberty. Such a soul is destined to become an intellectual parrot, a social automaton, and a slave to religious authority. Okay, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about why this section is so important to me. I had once aligned myself with a certain type of people, a certain group of people, a certain class of people, a certain category of people in a political environment. I did that based on a platform of ideas that I aligned with. It was not until I began to observe this group's treatment of other people that I realized I could no longer align with them. More than that, when I began to witness more than the words and ideas that were put forth, but when I began to witness the behavior and how it seemed that these were only words. The words sounded really good. The things in print, conceptually, were very good. But when they began to attack, to ridicule, to bias, prejudice, they took great attempts to destroy careers and to absolutely annihilate people's I began to see a lot of things. If a question occurs in your mind and you take it to your priest or your pastor or your preacher or whomever, if a question occurs in your mind, the question was placed there for a reason, because it benefits you to ask that question, and it benefits the people that you take that question to ask of them. It benefits them. If they turn us away, and cite things like, it's blasphemous to question God, or if they say things like, well, you must be an idiot to believe or to listen to or to give your attention to something. These are all strategies to keep us from asking the needed to be asked questions, the necessary questions. Anytime guilt, shame, ridicule, belittling, anytime any of those things come into play, there is ego involved. When we truly wish to do the right thing, when we truly wish to do good things for others and ourselves, the ridicule, the belittling, the biases, these things are not, they are not in alignment with that. Finding fault with someone on whatever level is not in alignment with that. You may disagree with people. That is fine to have differences of opinions. It is actually very good and very healthy to have responsible, mature conversations about how we see something differently. Because if we can do that, what we find is that at the bottom of all of that, if we all are really doing, if our intentions are all to do what is best for all involved and everyone concerned, we have the same goal. There is nothing wrong with having a discussion. You will find through the discussion who has the righteous, loving goal and who does not. So be careful of words that sound pretty and good. and then behaviors from those same parties that don't align with the words that they're putting out there. It's only words. It's only words. Okay, goodness is always growing toward new levels of the increasing liberty of moral self-realization and spiritual personality attainment. The discovery of and identification with the indwelling adjuster. Okay, so I'm going to read that one more time. Goodness is always growing toward new levels of the increasing liberty of moral self-realization and spiritual personality attainment. The discovery of and identification with the indwelling adjuster. So again, that is speaking about merging the divine aspect with the personality, the spiritual personality. So you have those couple differences. And it goes on to say an experience is good when it heightens the appreciation of beauty, augments the moral will, enhances the discernment of truth, enlarges the capacity to love and serve one's fellows, exalts the spiritual ideals, and unifies the supreme human motives of time with the eternal plans of the indwelling adjuster. And all of this leads to a direct desire, an increased desire to do the Father's will. Okay, and what is the Father's will? It is ours. It is our will also. So what that means is to fuse the aspects of yourself, to bring them up to the level where they can function in a space that serves the divine will. Because the Father's will is our will, and naturally we would just align with it. So it's how do we bring the aspects of us? How do we get the moral aspects of us, the egoic aspects of us, to serve our divine highest good? And that is all this is about. It's about merging of them, bringing those things that make us mortal, and bringing them into a space where they can actually serve our divine will, because our will and the Father's are the same on spirit level. They're the same. As you ascend the universe scale of creature development, you will find increasing goodness and diminishing evil in perfect accordance with your capacity for goodness experience and truth discernment. The ability to entertain error or experience evil will not be fully lost until the ascending human soul achieves final spirit levels. Okay. This could mean many different things, so let me pause here for just a minute and look at it. Okay, so what I was shown about that was, as we ascend and become more light and love, we will find increasing goodness. And this is on so many levels. It is because when you resonate at a love frequency, you attract those frequencies to you. So your world, okay, my world, as I increase my loving light frequency, I attract to me the same. My world becomes very different than someone else's who is vibrating on a lower frequency level. And so we do, it's the law of attraction, reaping what we sow, just stated differently. When we are vibrating on that level, we attract these like things to us, and we also emit those like things out into the world. So the more light and love that we hold, we're also expressing that into the world and raising the light and love vibration all around us at the same time. So this is a twofold thing, because it not only works in our lives, but it helps to serve everyone else, all of our brothers and sisters here too. This is a really interesting part. What it showed me here was, it chokes me up. You will find increasing goodness and diminishing evil in perfect accordance with your capacity for goodness experience and truth discernment. Okay. Your capacity for goodness experience. There's a lot of forgiveness required in this. There's a lot of clearing of old negative energies required for this, because do you truly love yourself? Do you truly know that you deserve a beautiful, loving experience? This is your capacity for goodness experience. Truth discernment means, are you willing to let go of everything that you want to be true to see what is true? Are you willing to let go of the rainbows and butterflies that are painted in front of your face to see the workings underneath it, so that it can be healed? Are you truly willing to see and know? So when we are raising our vibration to increase our goodness experience, we may only do that through learning to love ourselves better. Because then we feel like we deserve loving experiences, goodness experiences. And we are also vibrating at that higher level, reinforcing and producing more of the same. But there is also this. We must be truly willing to look at the negative things that have been in us, working in us, that have been influencing us, that have been going on around us, that have been permitted on our planet. We must be willing to see what has truly occurred. Not to focus our energy and attention on that negative stuff, but that we can focus our love and attention on the solution to that stuff. We can all agree, well, those of us, I would say the gross majority of us, like 98, maybe 99% of the inhabited population on this planet, that a lot of these atrocities are bad and do not serve us, and we want them to stop. We don't have to focus our love and attention on the tragedy. We do need to be aware that it's there, that it's happening, that it has happened, and where we go forward. This is where we get into racial discrimination and all that stuff. We have to be really careful that we're not focusing our love and attention 100 years ago. Today. We need to be focused on today, not on what happened 100 years ago. What is happening today? Where are the injustices today? You can't bring that stuff into this moment, because it distracts from what we need to do to correct what's happening today. Let's not, I don't want to say that because that will be offensive to some. So I think I'll just leave it there. But let's focus on what's going on today so we can clean it up. but only focus on it enough to create a plan going forward. Not to cause guilt, shame, and anything else, ridicule for what has been done. That's not helpful. It is of no benefit. It is, this thing is occurring. It is harmful, not beneficial. Okay. How do we correct it? What needs to happen? First step. And let's give our love and attention to that. The first step, the second step, the third step. In cooperation. Okay? So that part was interesting. So truth discernment, I just had this conversation with my dad because I understand that when we get to a certain level, we will not see evil or sin anymore. We won't see it because it will not exist in our world. But while it does, while these errors are occurring, while these things are happening, the truth and discernment is completely tied into the goodness and love and light. Because I said to my friend recently, I said, I thought if I raise my vibration and start doing it right and focus on the things that I want in the world and not on the things that I think are negative, and give my love and attention to the positives and what I want to see more of, that I will just attract a loving, harmonious relationship, right? And that's true. But at the same time, what I see are things falling away, that it feels painful in the moment because nothing is progressing in that area of life. What is happening is that a lot of weeds are being uprooted. But that's all part of it. That's all part of it. And my girlfriend said that. She said, yes, that is what's happening. That is what's happening. Because that's not the right one. And so the falling away is happening faster because it's just not right. It's just not the right one. It's the weeds are coming out sooner, which is a good thing. So again, there's that perspective. You can take it as a good thing or as a bad thing. And which way do you want to take it? So there's your choice. The loving way to look at it is, yes, this person and I didn't really hit it off. And the love in that is that it's better for both of us that we didn't, because we didn't waste each other's time any longer, and we didn't have a lot invested in it, or more invested in it. And though it might feel sucky, might as well happen today instead of 3 years from now when it could be much worse. And so there is love in that. So it's just a choice. Do you perceive evil or do you perceive goodness in it? There's your choice. Goodness is living, relative, always progressing. So there, right? Goodness is always progressing. It gets to the point where you can see the love in the harshest of situations, where you can see the blessing in the harshest of situations. And I covered this in, I think the video I did last night, where I said that, when we pray, when we become more love and light, or more aware, the prayers will change from asking God for things to expressing gratitude and love for the experiences we have, even the ones that feel painful. And finding the beauty, as it said in here, finding the beauty in even those things. It doesn't mean we want more painful experiences. It means that when we can express so much gratitude out into the world changes. we change, the world changes. We are the world. That's a song, isn't it? We are the world. The world is not happening outside of us. We're creating it. We are creating it as we go. Every experience, collectively, all of us together doing this. A lot more of us are focused in on doing good and positive things. But we are the same ones now who want to shift this, what's going forward, they have given our consent, implied consent to the things that had already been occurring. It was not occurring in my world. I was not aware it was occurring in anyone's world. But now that I know that these things have been going on, I demand that it's changing. And it must change. It must change because we know. Once we know, once it is brought to our loving attention, these things must change. Because the divine within us will not tolerate these injustices to continue to occur. It is inevitable. As powerful children of God that we are. Okay. I really feel like, okay, and we did talk about the possibility of evil is necessary to mortal choosing. I've talked about that in other videos also. Last night, just, this is so funny because these things come up. It came up last night, and here I am reading this today, and it just keeps building upon itself. So I'm going to leave it here for now. I'm sure this is going to be long enough till I pair them all together. So, in peace and love, may you be blessed. I hope this message finds you all well. I hope, 4th of July is coming up. I hope everybody has a great 4th and is safe doing it. With your fireworks and everything else. I hope it's a beautiful, wonderful, celebration and time of gathering and loving and happy memories, high frequency, high vibrational activity. And I ask that it be done in safety for all of us. And so it is. In peace and love, may you be blessed.